Hey everyone, Mike Harris, Goals Director of Public Policy, back again for another legislative update. We're back from a short break from with what I think we're going to call Season 2 of the Legislative Update Series to help keep you up to date with the goings-on of the state legislature and what bills are moving through the State House that you should probably know about. This week is a little bit less of a formal update than usual, but before I introduce my guest, here's some short information about the current status of the legislature and kind of what's been going on up at the State House. The State House is still closed to the public. Again, no word on when this might be coming to a close, although I have heard a rumor that the building could be opening soon with some COVID restrictions, which is kind of a step in the right direction, but no official word on that yet. We'll let you know when we actually hear what's going on, because it's been kind of weird, just like everything else. Mm-hmm. Back on October 5th, the Joint Committee on the Judiciary held a virtual hearing. Goal attended, and we were also able to submit testimony on a few bills, namely one that we will be discussing today, House Bill 1608. But more on that in a few minutes. There aren't any more hearings with firearms-related bills on the schedule for October, but we're always keeping an eye on that calendar. But now on to our main topic. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which was launched in October of 1987 as a way to connect and unite people and organizations working on domestic violence issues, while also raising awareness of those issues. And I would argue that my guest here is one of those individuals. Today I have Kerrie Ann Auclair with me to discuss some of those issues, as well as a couple of bills that are moving through the state legislature that could kind of affect us. Thanks for being here, Kerrie Ann.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Can you tell everyone kind of who you are and kind of run through the organizations that you kind of run?
Yeah. So again, my name is Kerrie Ann Auclair. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course.
Really appreciate that. So I actually run a well-armed women's shooting chapter in Massachusetts, Bristol County. And I just recently became the state director for DC, the DC Project, in January.
Awesome.
So basically, we're a nationwide organization of women safeguarding our Second Amendment.
Cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great group.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we have a state director pretty much from every state, and we get together once a year to go to DC and fight for our rights. So
do you guys get together during the year to kind of come up with like a game plan?
Yes, actually.
How you're gonna advocate?
Yeah, actually,
Cool.
I just came from Gainesville, Florida.
Awesome.
We did a 4-day training summit.
Cool.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
What did you guys do there? Just kind of go through advocacy prep and...
Exactly.
Cool.
Yep. And we actually got to I finally got to meet Diane Muller, the founder of the foundation, and my national director, Kelly Pigeon.
Cool.
So it was amazing. We had a great time. I'm so empowered. I have so many different stories, and I'm just jacked. I can't wait to work with Goal and local advocate groups and
you guys
get
have
the
been
job
awesome.
done.
Well, it's been really cool to kind of get to know you. And I always say this, one of the reasons why I really stepped into this job and really enjoy it is everybody I've met through this little world of ours has been awesome. And just, the concept of self-defense is such an odd one in today's atmosphere, and it's just kind of one of those things that is uncomfortable to discuss, but you kind of have to. And
I feel like I just finally came out, and I'm really like starting to talk about it more on my social media page, which I was really apprehensive to do it because I think this is a touchy subject. You hear firearms and people are like, oh, firearms? And it ends up being like a taboo thing.
Yep.
But I think once you start educating people and really helping them to understand the process of why we have a firearm, because there's so many reasons to why someone has that, bought a firearm, whether it's recreational, protection, home protection, self-protection, out of the home. There's so many different reasons. But then when you start working in this atmosphere and you're with like-minded women and like-minded individuals in general, you hear the personal stories from women that have survived a domestic violence situation. And you can't take that back. It's etched into your heart and your soul and your head, and you say, "Oh my God, we gotta protect these rights, and we have to protect these women that and help them because it's a personal choice." So this bill that we're going to be talking about, I think, is huge because it's giving an opportunity for someone that is in a domestic violence situation, mostly women, but men are in that situation too. It gives them an opportunity to say, I want to choose what is right for me. And if you choose a firearm to protect yourself and your family, then the Well-Armed Woman and other organizations like Girls and a Gun, we're here to help you. We're here to get you through that first stage of, what do I do with this? Okay.
Yeah.
Take a breath. We got it.
Having that option is super important. And but wanting to access that option also comes with its own set of challenges. Like, you need to know the law, you need to know how to operate within the bounds of using that type of force in the right situation. So I think groups like yours and the Well-Armed Women DC Project, and the domestic violence, I think what's DVAC, I think the national organization. They're invaluable in making sure you know how to defend yourself within the means of the law, so you don't get in trouble yourself.
Right.
So you don't turn yourself into the perpetrator instead of the victim.
And that's good, because there's a law-abiding citizens, but honestly, I rather call them responsible gun owners. So when you do get your firearm, just because you have it doesn't mean that, okay, I'm going to use this to protect myself. There's so many different other means to it that you need to know to make sure that you understand the law, you recognize what the law means, and then make sure that you're a responsible gun owner and do what is right.
Which I think segues perfectly into these two bills that we're going to be discussing.
They're awesome.
Right now. All right, which segues right into our next bill, or our first bill, I'm sorry. House 1608, an act relative to violent protection order violations. Filed by Rep. Sue Gifford. Goal helped her draft the bill, so we're definitely in favor of its passage. It was referred to the Committee on the Judiciary, and they actually had a hearing on this bill back on October 5th, which was about 2 weeks ago. Goal testified on that at the hearing. We're going to be submitting written testimony shortly, and you submitted some testimony yourself.
I absolutely did. Yep.
This was one of the bills that we actually worked on during Goal's, what did we call it? The
workshop.
The workshop, the advocacy seminar that we held over in Mansfield. That was fun. Yep. But this was one of the bills that we worked with, and it just kind of happened to come up in the next hearing that was coming up, which was kind of cool. So this bill would direct the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, EOPS, to develop and provide materials about legal methods of self-defense in the Commonwealth to a plaintiff that has successfully received a protection order. So this is somebody who has filed a restraining order or a protection order or something, and it has been granted to the court. This bill would direct EOPS to provide that person with information about self-defense. It could be anything from, jiu-jitsu classes to firearms classes, licensing information, where to buy a gun.
I think that's awesome.
Yep. So it kind of, it doesn't really give parameters to EOPS, just says, hey, figure out what you need to provide and start doing it.
Yep, give them a packet.
Exactly. So it would be a packet of information that somebody who gets one of these orders granted would receive. But on top of that, this bill also eliminates the duty of a plaintiff who has received one of those protection orders to retreat from any place that they have a legal right to be. So if you're out in public and somebody comes up that you have a restraining order against, comes up and starts to attack you or something, and you feel fear for your life and safety, or the safety of your children or whoever is around you, you don't have the duty to retreat from that person.
It's huge.
You can defend yourself. It's technically a stand your ground law for people who have been granted protection orders.
Right.
Similar to the Castle Doctrine, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes. This is for when you're out in public and you're confronted by the person who you have a restraining order against. You don't have a duty to retreat from them. This is another vital
it's absolutely vital
piece of legislation in the Commonwealth that would eliminate the fear of the legal system that victims of domestic violence unnecessarily have.
Yeah, and need to be
Yeah.
dealing with that
Exactly.
when they're already dealing with another issue of fearing for their lives. So I think it's huge. I
Yeah,
think
you don't
this
want
is
to. You don't want to be afraid to defend yourself.
Right.
That you're going to be lose your kids or get thrown in jail or have your kids go to that person or
Right.
things
Right.
like that. There's
It's
just
huge.
so many aspects to this that are important. So
And I think what's really good about this bill is it's also giving them an option. So instead of giving, I got a restraining order, what do I do now? How do I protect myself?
You rely on it allows you to rely on yourself rather than needing the police.
But it gives you a
or-
packet to make that personal decision on like which way should I go?
Right.
Should I get a firearm? Should I go to some self-defense classes? So it gives them a package to look at and say, oh, okay, I need to sit down and talk to people. So,
Yeah. And
it's huge.
And I think part of it would be opening up a line of communication with the local police department that you have. Say like, hey, these are the people you need to talk to that handle these types of cases. Make sure they know who you are so that if a situation like this arises,
Right.
they'll know what's going on.
Right.
So I mean, I think it's on the duty of the person who's granted those orders to get into contact with the local police who can
Right.
help them.
Right, exactly. I think it's huge.
And it's
awesome.
and just providing the key to pretty much anything in life is just information. So making education, information. So making sure people who are in these types of situations that are vulnerable have access to that information, telling them how they can take care of
Right.
themselves.
And education
huge.
is really the key. Safety, not legislation.
Education, not legislation.
Yep. That's awesome.
Is there anything else you have on this one, or I think this is pretty good. I mean,
I think this is huge. This
a
is
great bill.
this is a great bill. And somebody asked me when we were doing, I think it was you actually, when we were doing the training, well, who's going to benefit from this? Obviously, people that are instructors, but I volunteer my time for the Well-Armed Woman. And I think that there's a
Right.
lot of women groups out there that do the same thing because they want to guide women in a safe direction.
Right.
So I think this is huge.
making sure people just have the knowledge of what they can do
Right.
to keep themselves safe.
And
is
being trained
invaluable.
and give them the opportunity to train in a non-threatening environment. And that's what we're all about. You
Perfect.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, so that we talked a little bit about the Castle Doctrine. This kind of leads us into our next bill. It's House Bill 1882, an act relative to protecting domestic violence victims. It was filed by Representative Allison Sullivan. I think she's a newbie rep. She's great. There's another goal bill that we worked with her on. Again, it sits with the Committee on the Judiciary, but it has not had a hearing yet, and I don't believe it's scheduled at the moment. The last update I have is that it was just referred to the committee and it's kind of just there. So this bill, it's not the Castle Doctrine, but well, actually, let me define that first. So the Castle Doctrine, in Massachusetts at least, removes the duty the duty of someone who's an occupant of a dwelling. It's a home, apartment, in a lot of circumstances, a hotel, cabin, places like that, Airbnb. It removes their duty to retreat if somebody breaks and enters into that dwelling with the intention of harming that person. Like if someone's in there just stealing your stuff and they run away, you can't shoot them in the back.
So what about a trailer or something like
Trailer, yeah, I mean, it's a dwelling. It's kind of one of those kind of weird definitions. I think a trailer is an odd one because it can move. It might not be considered a structure.
that? A structure, yeah.
But it's for the purposes of you sleeping in there, it's a dwelling. So, legally, these definitions are just funky.
yeah.
It's
They
kind
are.
of up to the court and how they interpret things. There's black letter law, and then there's case law, which is court's interpretation of things. And they've limited the scope of the Castle Doctrine a little bit to certain relationships and things like that are
Right.
out of bounds, but it's kind of nebulous. But what this bill would do is it would expand the Castle Doctrine to kind of include everyone, not just certain relationships. So if somebody breaks in your house and they're a criminal, they're a stranger to you and you're in fear of your life, you can use deadly force against them if you're in fear of your
Your life.
safety or your life or the life of somebody else that lives with you. But the force continuum applies, commensurate force, things like that. Castle Doctrine is kind of limited in scope based upon your relationship with that person. So what this bill would do is expand and kind of clarify the home invasion law. So the home invasion law, it's Section 18C of Chapter 256. I'm sorry, actually, it's Section 265. It's Chapter 265, Section 18C is the home invasion section of criminal law. It's the entry of dwelling places, persons present within, weapons and punishment, things like that. So this bill would kind of expand and clarify what you can do in that situation.
Right.
So if your current husband breaks into your house that he no longer lives at because he's been kicked out because of a restraining order, breaks in with the intention to hurt you, you can now use the Castle
Protect
Doctrine to defend yourself once you have protected yourself.
Right.
So it's a good law. It's got a lot of co-sponsors.
Yeah, I saw
A few
that.
of the
That's
co-sponsors
awesome.
on here are former police officers, which is
Look
cool.
at that.
Yeah, so it's got a good list on there.
Of course, yay.
Yep.
Yay,
Hi,
yay, yay.
Norm, Rep Oral, he's a great guy.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just kind of it takes a one section law and kind of expands it into kind of clarification and kind of gets into nitty gritty about things. It kind of, the way it's worded is it removes liability of the homeowner or occupant for injuries or death that result in somebody breaking into your home.
And I think that Massachusetts is very fortunate to have goal.
I
Because
think
when you
so.
look at these laws and these bills, your head will spin because the wording is complicated to understand. It's meant to be confusing, It's just
Kinda.
complicated. It's just and it can be overwhelming. So it's good to have groups like yourself that can help explain these bills and create these bills, which are so important. So
And that's kind of what you guys do too on the federal level with the DC project and
Yep.
stuff. It's kind of cool.
Yep.
So, but like we were talking, so we had a conversation yesterday before this. We were talking about other groups in the Commonwealth. Actually, no, it's kind of a good segue for this. So goal, just to clarify what we do, our job is to kind of advocate for or against things before they come law. Once they become law and they need to be interpreted, like if somebody is using the Castle Doctrine to defend themselves in court after they've shot a home invader, you'd call Commonwealth. Exactly, you'd call Commonwealth 2A, and they would help you defend yourself in the court system. So we're kind of proactive; they're more reactive, which is just kind of the nature of the legal system itself. They're great over there. You don't hear a lot from them, but again, that's just. They're always working. They're always doing stuff. They're very
That's
busy.
awesome.
They're just as big advocates as we are, but they are just kind of on the back end of things. And the legal system is kind of a closed biome, so
it'd be
you're not really.
awesome to have them come in and we can all have like a
Oh, they're-
three-way conversation.
They're great. Yeah, we
Yeah.
could. I think that would be a great idea at
Yeah.
some point. Have a conversation with those guys. But yeah, I mean those are the two bills that we wanted to talk about today. It was awesome to have you in
Oh,
here.
my God,
I
thank
hope
you
this was. I hope this was educational.
Yeah,
And
thank you for inviting me. Absolutely.
of course, you're always welcome here. Why don't you run through how to get in touch with your
Yeah.
organization and how women can
Yeah,
get
so
involved?
So the DC Project is a great way to be a voice, especially if you are wanting to make a difference. The DC Project is, again, a nationwide organization of women protecting and safeguarding our Second Amendment. So if you are interested in participating and be part of that voice, because one voice is quiet, but when you have voices get together, we get loud and we are recognized and heard. So I need more members, which are technically delegates. So if you are interested in joining, go to dcproject.info, okay? And it's right here, so it's on the board. We need you.
We can put the links in the
Yeah,
description
we'll put the
below,
links
too.
in there,
Yep.
And if you are concerned, because people are like a little intimidated by becoming part of a group like this, because they're like, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how to do it. That is where we come in and we try to help you. We educate you. We try to explain how to do this, because maybe you're a good writer. Maybe you're really good at interviewing. Maybe you just want to wear your teal t-shirt, and come in and be part of a group and be a presence. And that's important too. So there are so many things that you can do to help us out. So please, 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 it's free. Join. Call me if you have any questions before you join. But if you are interested, go to the website and hit participate. And another thing too, which is really extremely important, is us state directors, we go to the DC project. We volunteer our time. So it's really important that if you are interested, maybe you're not interested in being a delegate, maybe you want to just donate, please go to the website. There's a spot there to donate as well. If you're donating for a certain state, indicate that in the section saying this is for Massachusetts. And it's important because it's going to get me to the State House in DC. I actually did a GoFundMe to get to Gainesville, Florida.
Oh, cool.
Gold donated $500 to help me get there, and
Awesome.
I had less stress because
Great.
I got there, and it was awesome. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
So it's important. If you are interested and you're in the Bristol County area and you're interested in the Well-Armed Women Shooting Chapter, go to the website, the Well-Armed Women Shooting Chapters.org, and look for Bristol County. My emails, actually, we'll put that on the link as well, if you don't
we'll
mind.
put all this stuff
but
in the description.
we'll put that on there. Yep.
Absolutely.
So if you have questions regarding that, and you are maybe in a situation of domestic violence currently, and you are looking to get your firearms and looking for some training, this is a great way. And if there's any women instructors out there that are looking to possibly, start a chapter, I'm willing to help you, because we need more chapters all over Massachusetts.
Yep.
So we can help each other out. But thank you so much
Absolutely.
for having me. This
And
is
if anyone's
fabulous.
interested in getting the training to become an instructor, give us a call and we'll introduce you to John. He's awesome.
He's awesome. He trained me.
Yep. But yeah, thank you so much for
Wow.
being here, Kerrie Ann.
Thank
This
you.
is,
This
I
is-
think this was just a great thing to do, especially for Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yeah, it was exciting. Thank
It
you.
was great. And that is it for Goals Legislative Update. We'll put the link to Goals Interactive Legislator Map on the bottom, just like we always do, so you can figure out how to get involved in state policy and kind of follow things. As always, goal.org. We'll put all that stuff down there. Just get out there and advocate for yourself if you care about this issue.
Yeah.
Help us by helping yourself.
Yep.
So thank you again, Kerrie Ann, for being here.
No, thank
Everything
you.
will be down the bottom. And go Sox.